Leadership and Yoga fam, she's back. Today, I'm welcoming Dee, or Dedica, as she is known on the online world, back to the Leadership and Yoga podcast. Dee is a yoga teacher. She's a fitness professional and former dancer with a focus on helping others feel their power. And I can tell you that as I'm just on the other side of completing this interview with Dee, I'm feeling the power. Y'all are in for a really big treat today. This conversation is about healing, about growth, about coming back stronger. It's about creativity and yoga, what they have in common. It's about the cycles of highs and lows in life and how we can really learn to work with them. It's very refreshing. It's a beautiful conversation, and I'll also mention that Dee is someone who has come up multiple times from listeners as a requested interview. So here you have it, part two of the interview with Dee. And if you are listening, I want to ask you to please take a moment to support this project, this podcast of mine, by dropping me a rating for my show, subscribing to my show, and also by sharing this episode with a friend, either directly or also on social media. And if you're a fellow yoga teacher and listening to this episode, I want to tell you about Offering Tree, which is one of my sponsors of this show. And, I love working with them because running your yoga business shouldn't mean choosing between looking professional or staying profitable. Offering Tree is a platform built specifically for yoga teachers, and you get complete scheduling and booking, payment processing that works with ease, a professional website that you actually control, and unlimited email marketing and support from real people who actually know your name, all in one place. They're offering listeners a free trial and a discount using the links in the show notes. And let me just say, if you're looking to get your business organized in the online world as a yoga teacher, Offering Tree is a breath of fresh air. There's no venture capital, big business pressure. It's just a team that has been supporting specifically yoga teachers since 2016. So check them out at offeringtree.com. I'm also really excited to tell you about Tend, which is a brand that my friend Art created and is also a new sponsor of this show. Tend is a zero waste home and body care brand rooted in Ayurveda. It was born right here in the Pacific Northwest, and Tend invites a slower way of being, a return to the senses, a remembering that care is not something that we have to rush through, but something that really reshapes how we feel in our bodies and how we experience life. I always keep one of my Tend ritual oils right here on the bedstand. I love to use it for a little self massage, especially before I go to sleep. And Art is actually a fellow listener, longtime listener of the Leadership and Yoga podcast, and somebody who became a friend of mine for that reason. So it's a really full circle and beautiful moment to be able to share a product that I've been personally using, and I can feel the care and the intention and the frequency behind on the podcast because I've been using this product for over a year. And it's a great option if you're looking to either get yourself a little something or you're looking to gift something to a friend of yours or somebody in your life that has a quality and intention behind it. With that, let's get into the episode. Today on the Leadership and Yoga podcast, Deanna D. Carlo. Dee, welcome back into the Leadership and Yoga podcast over a year later. I'm so excited to be here with you. And yeah, for those of you tuning in, you're in for a real treat. We've got a lot of things to catch up on and hear about Dee's life, also known as Dedica, if you follow her on the online world like I do. But welcome in. Thanks for being here,
Thank
Dee.
you. Oh my gosh, thank you for having me back. It's been so long. I can't believe it's been so long.
Yeah. And you're coming to us live from Tulum
I'm in
with
Tulum.
this
Yeah, I'm back in Tulum,
beautiful
Mexico.
glowy, bringing all that energy to us. If you're watching the video, it's so lovely to see you. And I know that this past year and even more than that has brought so many changes and so many ups and downs for you. But before we get into your story and also talking about yoga, of course, I want to start us off today by asking you, what is something that people don't usually know about you? And this can be something small, something big, but that's what we're going to roll with first.
Oh my gosh. I think, especially in my work, I present really just one side of myself on social media and on Instagram, and it's my work. And that's really the only part of myself that I show. I think if you take my classes, parts of my personality start to sneak out. But I think in general, people are just like, wait, you're cool.
How
Wait,
so? How
like you're
so?
cool. I don't know. They're like, oh my God, like you're actually funny and you're actually laid back and you're actually like not, I think we spoke about this the last time. Like, when you step onto your mat to teach, it is you, but there's something like it's a different, version of you, which is we bring ourselves to what we do, but also, you know, I never, I think we always feature one part of our personalities online. And then when they meet me in person, they're like, oh, you're a goofball. Oh, you're funny. Oh, you're cool. So I think that's kind of, I don't know. People are always
Yeah, there's like
surprised.
there's a teacher D and then there's the you chatting and being you. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I do feel like when I see and when I first was exposed to your online presence, I was like, this chick is a badass. Like, wow, you don't like she's unstoppable. And so I can see how yeah, there's almost like this factor of like fire that comes through. And I know that in talking to you, that comes through too, but there's also like this playful nature. So that makes sense as well. I love that. So, in where you are right now, take us to a little bit of like how you've been doing. What are some breakthroughs, I guess, that you've had lately, and what's going on a bit in your life?
So since the last we spoke, I think a few months after, I ended up having a really freak accident in my house and I fell and I broke like my entire lower right leg. I had just gotten back to Tulum. I was not planning to be here for a very long time, and on my fourth day here, I it was like all my plans changed. Everything had to change, and I was just so I shattered my tibia, my fibula, and my fifth metatarsal. And I remember hitting the floor, and my first thought was, oh no, the January challenge. That was my first thought. Not like
That
I
was your
broke my
first thought.
leg. Yeah, of course. That was my first thought. I'm like, I am 2.5 weeks out from the January challenge. Like, how could I be so clumsy? How could I put myself in this situation? And thankfully, I was able to react quickly. I was alone. I was able to react quickly. I called some friends that were able to come and be with me. And the next, 15 days were really very intense mentally, physically, emotionally. I had to have three like major surgeries over 10 days over Christmas.
Yeah.
And once again, I think we spoke about it and touched on it in our last interview, was this the idea of making lemonade, being able to adapt
Yeah.
and it is one of my strengths, or has come to be one of my strengths, is adaptation. And so when I hit the floor, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to, I knew I had to do the January challenge. I was like, mentally, after going through something this big and this physically, and knowing what a healing process is like mentally, I knew I had to still show up. I was like, how can I do this? And I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it, but at the time, someone that was working with me very closely, I was like, do you think we can pull this off? And they said, yeah, I think we can actually do this. And I'm like, what if we did like models like we had done like when I was sick? I would have, back in Tulum when I used to get really sick from just adjusting to all the stomach stuff, I would have some of
Oh
my friends
yeah.
come in and model my classes. Um, and so I was like, what if we just went back to that? Because that was always very well received in so many ways. I think that people found it much more educational to see me teaching to somebody else. So right away there was this idea of shifting the challenge in that way. And so I ended up waiting not 2.5 weeks, but I waited like 3 weeks. I gave myself an extra week to heal, and we still showed up and did the challenge every day, 6 days a week for 5 weeks, which was incredible.
I know, I remember seeing you with a long stick and you were sitting in a chair and you had the model demoing and
Yes.
you would point to different parts
You know,
of your
that stick
body
was
and
very
tell,
controversial. It was very controversial. Some people loved
really?
it, some people hated it. They're like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Listen, if my leg was not broken, I would not be using an instrument. But because, my mobility was like, I was in a wheelchair for 4 months. So,
Yeah.
because my mobility, I couldn't get up and actually physically demonstrate. The stick became a very useful prop. And I was like, hey, how can I use this? How can I use this?
I loved
And
the
we made it
stick.
work.
I'm like, I actually feel like I'm learning more in some ways because you're actually pointing to the different parts of the body. And I found it to be very useful.
I'm so
But
glad. I'm so
I'm sure
glad.
everybody has their own opinions about it, but let
That's
them
very good.
let them try from the wheelchair to teach and see what they will do, right? They're not in the arena like you were in that moment.
But
Wow.
I was very great. I was actually very grateful, like the whole time, as bad as it was, when I hit the floor, I was in panic for probably the first like 5 hours. And it was, I made a choice at one point. I was like, you can either be positive or you can drag yourself through this. Like, that your body has the ability to heal, because I've been here
Yes.
before. I've had another injury, like, and I've brought myself through that process. I know that I'm crazy and I'm going to do whatever I need to do, to get back. And I've proven that to myself before. So like, I was like, you've been in this before. You have the choice to just be positive and don't freak out until you have to. And that was my whole mantra for the first, I think, 4 or 5 months, was like, do not freak out until you have to. Do not let your mind go there. And it was another practice of yoga where I was like, I cannot let these invasive thoughts come, because they come. You have pain is,
Yes.
an incredible teacher and tool, but also it's, working and trying to understand and separate yourself from it is a thing. Also feeling, not feeling progress. Like, you feel progress a lot at the beginning, and then somewhere in the middle you feel like nothing's changing. And that's
Yep.
another. So in healing, there's like all these, and that can be mental healing, that can be physical healing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because I've gone through this before, because, this practice has laid like a mental foundation for me, for understanding, for processing, and for trusting, I was able to meet it. I think that's all what the practice is about, is like, when things get thrown at us, because they're going to get thrown at us, like, how do we meet it? We have to meet it. We can't run from it or it chases us. We don't necessarily want to go chasing that thing, but some people do. But if we
Yeah.
meet it halfway and we work with it, I
Mm-hmm.
think it can be a really powerful tool for.
So in a super tangible way, what does this look like for you? Does this look like just mental conversations that you're having with yourself? Is it writing? Is it talking to people about it? What does it actually look like?
I think it's a combination of things. And especially for me in this process, I was just very real with myself. I was like, you can have your days to cry and be completely down at the bottom, but like, you can't stay there. So
Hmm.
I'd let myself have those moments. And sometimes that meant like, yeah, I needed to talk through it with people that were super close to me, and like, God bless them for letting me repeat myself
Bless
over and
those
over
people.
again. Bless
Yeah.
those, our good friends that are there for us. And some days that would just look like me just watching movies and kind of fermenting, not rotting, fermenting on the couch all day, but. And I also had to tell myself, I was like, okay, like, I've been going, 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 going. Like, this was almost inevitable. And if I didn't break my leg, I don't think I would have actually stopped to like sit and
Mm.
take stock of things and really consider, is this still how I want to show up? Is this still how, because I think once we go into process, and I'm sure you've experienced this now, even with your work, and this, you hit a certain momentum, right? And you hit a certain momentum and you have to show up for it, and you want to show up for it, but it is also something that takes up time, energy, and space, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean you get to reinvent yourself. I think that we reinvent ourselves naturally when we're in process. Like when we show up for our practice, I feel like there's this natural evolution that comes with it, whether that's on your mat or like this in your work. But then there's also evolution that comes from just being bored, doing
Yes.
nothing, having no external inputs, desires, distractions. And I don't think I ever would have intentionally like given that to myself because of the
This is
momentum
so key.
that I was in, you know? Um, and the momentum that I like to be in. That's like who I am as a person. Like I am a doer, you know? Maybe not type A, but I am a doer. Like,
Yeah.
you
She's
know?
doing things type B style.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
this is
Like all over
really,
the place.
really important to talk about, I think, because at least for me, my experience is that starting off, I didn't have a lot of that momentum. I didn't have a lot of things going on. I didn't really feel that sense of busyness. And then somewhere along the line, you realize you're really busy. And yes, it feels good, but it's not like it's going to get easier to slow down because the
Hmm.
opportunities and everything keep growing, they keep changing, they keep evolving. And if we don't feel like we can slow down now, I find it very unlikely that we'll ever feel like we can in the future. So
Hmm.
what you've just said is really it's really profound because yes, I mean the grace of the injury is that it brought you that moment to pause and to slow down and I've actually noticed that
And not
in
feel bad about it.
yes,
And
the
not
guilt.
feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, when am I ever, hopefully, touch wood, dear, like the sage, all the things. Like, when am I going to have another opportunity to be sitting like this and not feel bad that I am not producing,
Yeah.
that I am not showing up? You know, like when am I ever actually going to give myself that grace? I wasn't.
Yes.
And so,
Yeah.
and I say this in my classes a lot, like momentum is such a powerful tool and it's so important. Like we need to get off the ground and going, but it's also so important to learn like when to drop the momentum, you know? Like
Yes.
because that same force that takes you where you want to go can also burn you out very,
Mm.
very quickly and sends you plummeting. So you need to know if you want longevity, you need to know when to drop the ball.
Yep.
And then you got to know when to pick up the ball, you know? You
And to
can't wait
trust
too
yourself
long.
to be able to trust
Yeah.
yourself to be able to pick it up again.
Yeah. And I think
That's something,
mhm.
yeah,
That's
that
the
I
work, you
realized
know?
recently is that it's not really like you'll ever just arrive to some promised land where the momentum will carry you effortlessly on forever. It's kind of about learning to actually deal with that momentum. I like this visualization that you've given of dropping the ball and picking up the ball. That's the real practice is learning how to do that over and over and over again. It's not like, oh, I picked up the ball, I've got it forever. Great. Life is sound. There's no, never
And
going to set
nature
it
shows us
down.
that too, you know? Like yoga brings us back to our nature. And I
Yeah.
think nature is also like nature is never this well in most places. Like even in places where it's warm, we have seasons. You know, there's a season of
Hmm.
rain, there's a season of super hot sun, there's a season of a little more subtle.
Hmm.
But even nature shows us like it can't be the same all the time. Like there has to be a winter. You know,
Yeah.
there has to be a winter sometimes. This is what I'm
So
telling myself.
when you were getting back on your mat, I've seen you
Hmm.
mention on Instagram this feeling of kind of coming back with new eyes and coming back almost like it was new. The practice was new again to you. And I
Hmm.
want to ask if there was a very specific sensation or kind of thought or even memory that made you feel like, wow, I'm beginning again. This
Hmm.
is new.
Hmm. every day, every day when I hit my mat, whether it's yoga, whether it's my training, whether it's physio, it's if I think anybody who has broken a bone or broken like anything and you've had to have it, muscle atrophy is traumatic for someone who has been physically active or for anybody, but for someone like I have been physically active my
Hmm.
whole life. And so and I've been working with my body my entire life. And to watch the muscle just go very quickly within weeks, um, and have to build that back, for me, it has been super traumatic. Um, and also very interesting to feel one side of your body so aware, so like my brain is fully connected to my left leg. Like I have a lot of awareness, a lot of control, I have great function. In my right leg, because there's been so much muscle loss and atrophy, um, and there's also a fine line, I think, with training. Like I knew I wasn't going to be able to meet myself the way I always do, which is just like go, because
Hmm.
my, you know, there's been waves in the healing. I have to take time. Um, but the sensation when I hit my mat, it's like it is, I am building muscle from scratch. And that's something I actually haven't ever experienced because I've been physically active my whole life. You know, since I, like, even my earliest memories, I remember, you know, running and jumping and monkey bars and dance classes. So now every time I hit my mat, it is really like a very humbling experience because I know what to do. My conscious mind knows like what the alignment should be, how I should be engaging the muscles, what it should feel like, and what it should look like. And there's a disconnect between my brain telling the muscle to do it and my muscle not having the strength, the connectivity, the, I don't know how to describe it other than this, you know?
I understand. Yeah.
And to feel both sides, it's a new experience, but also just like my last injury, it's been a very essential part in my expansion as a teacher, you know,
Hmm. Yes.
especially, you know, I think it is an absolute privilege to have the time, the knowledge to connect with your body at such a young age, to be taught how to work with yourself, how to meet yourself, how to be disciplined with this machine that we're, you know, this meat suit
Hmm.
we're born into. And it's not something that a lot of people have had the privilege to do. And they are only starting to come into their bodies in their 20s, in their 30s, when they've started to, you know, have a little bit more time or they want to do it for health reasons.
Or
But
experiencing pain. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and experiencing the pain of growth, you know, like for the first time, like, oh my God, when I do like a pyramid pose, I'm in a forward fold, I'm like, this is what people feel when they're stretching. Like I'm finally understanding what that's in, because I've never really understood what that pain is. And now I'm being shown exactly what that is. So it's been yeah, very enlightening in many ways and deepening for myself as a teacher and how I'm going to approach teaching things moving forward. You know, it's crazy. At the beginning of my career, everything was like advanced, 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 push, big, handstands, crazy transit, and now it's just like I really dial back to like who we can get there, and that's something fun we can all do and something I love to do for myself. But in the way that I teach, I really go back to basics. Like it always comes back to this foundation and understanding the foundation and how to work from it to get yourself to that place. And this is just like another experience that is going to give me like a PhD in
Yeah.
doing that.
I want to ask you a kind of, well, it is definitely a basic question, but on a high level, for folks who maybe they're newer teachers listening to you, maybe they're just practitioners who are inspired by all of the things that you can do and all of the things that you've done. But what has yoga really brought to you? You know, why have you dedicated so much of your life to this practice?
You know, it's the one thing that always brings me back to myself, you know? I think especially the way the world is designed today, it's all everything pulls you outside of yourself, tells you you're not enough or you need something more. There's something outside of you that you don't have. And
Mm-hmm.
yoga has always taught me that it's like you have everything you need. You know, like
Mm.
you don't need anything fancy. You don't need, like, literally that feeling, this connected space that you get, whether it's through pranayama, meditation, asana, experiencing that whole limb. like, or all the limbs rather. Um, it's something that's always available to you, and you don't need anything. You don't need technology. You don't even need silence. It's actually better, when there's no silence. 'Cause then there's markers of like where you are, at least in time and space. At least it's easier for me. But it changed my life, especially in so many different chapters of my life. Like it's been there for me to help me understand, process, and adapt. And I think that's just life, because life is never we're never going to get there. Like it's always, it's a wave. There's cycles
Yes.
and seasons and all things, and it's just been that thing that has always like carried me through. And when I forget, I get on my mat and I like remember, you know.
Yes.
Something I see a lot online and have been recently, like a friend of mine introduced me to these like lymph exercises, which is like a Tai Chi and Qigong. And I made like a video on it, just doing it because it's one of the basic things that I can do right now to like help take care of myself. And I'm always surprised by how people want to over intellectualize the source. Like people want
Mm-hmm.
to be like, well, I'm not going to do it if I don't know where it comes from. It's like, can you just do it? Can you just bounce up and down? Like, is it going to kill you to just try? Like, do we need to know? And it is important. I'm not saying like we shouldn't know the history of things and where they come from. It's definitely important. But like, also for me, yoga is a naturally occurring practice. Like where people, I feel like, oh, I need to read all the books and all the texts and all these. Yeah, it's important. But if you
Mm.
actually do the work, you feel the process. I think we talked about this too, where like you experience things happening in your practice and then you read about it and you're like, oh yeah, that's already happened to me. Like I've already experienced like this thing that this text is talking about.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
feel that?
you reminded me of something that a teacher of mine said that I thought was really interesting is that, for example, imagine the difference between sitting there and intellectualizing and talking about and reading books about pizza and studying the pizza and how it smells and how it's made and all the things, and then
Torture.
imagine just taking a bite of the pizza and seeing for
Right.
yourself.
Yeah.
And that hit
Yeah.
me and I was like, yeah, actually,
It's just
you
like
never
that.
really will know
Exactly
it
that.
until you take a bite.
Hmm.
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 So in
I know
all
for
these,
me, I know for me when I found my practice, it was very much like that. Like it was, I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't know why it was happening, but I felt called to the work. And I think it's always going to call you in, no matter what it is. If it's asana, if it's meditation, if it's the pranayama, like all these different aspects of the practice are all just, ways to the way.
yeah, they call you in for sure. So with everything that you are doing and creating alongside of just the practicing and teaching of the yoga, it's a lot of work, and it's especially a lot of work when you have to do things like figure out how you can still teach when you can't physically demo your practice. And you've built this really wonderful online community, this online space of connection for people. But what makes you create and follow through on your creations?
Honestly, especially now in the last, oh my God, how many years have I been doing this now? 6 years. It's it's the students and the people that show up is like what keeps me inspired to like keep going. And sometimes I'm like, why? I ask myself that. I'm like, why am I doing all this? And I've had a lot of those moments this year of like, okay, like why are we in this momentum? Why are we continuing to do things this way? Is this how you want to move forward? Does this still make sense with like, what's happening in the world? Like, is there still a need for me to do things in the way that I've been doing them? And so, but yeah, it's always, I don't know, it's also like the same calling as like what keeps me coming back to the mat. Like there's whether it's like obsession or it's love or, but I really love my community of people that have like been there, that like we've grown together to watch them grow and excel. And yeah, I think the more people that can find, maybe not even just what I do, if I can inspire someone to go and do something else, that draws them in and helps them to cope with whatever this reality is that current realities we're living in, the world. Like so many times this year, I'm like, why am I in this body? Why am I here right now at this time? Like, what is going on? you know? Um, if I
Why do
can
you think we're here?
contribute, I have no freaking clue, man. I have no answers. I have more questions. That's another podcast. It's a whole other podcast. It's a podcast that's number three, part three. But
Part three, why are we here, according to
why,
Dee?
what are we doing? What is actually happening? But yeah.
Do you feel like there's a relationship between yoga and creativity? And this
hmm
can be in terms of your own personal practice and the feeling inspired. It can be on a bigger level in terms of your business, but what do you feel, if any, is the relationship between yoga and creativity?
Yeah, I think the best creations come from like the moment, Like I think our best ideas are not always like when we're searching for them. Like sometimes, things just hit you and you're like, oh, maybe I should, I think we talked about this last time where it's like you're in flow state in a class and you start doing a posture that you've never done before, that you didn't think about doing that morning when you hit the mat, and you just fly up into these things um, that you've never been able to do before. And then you're like, whoa, where am I? Like, I remember the first time I floated into like a lotus handstand and I freaked myself out because I was in flow state and I brought myself there. I didn't have any like preconceived notions, And I think that's what creativity is like you have this inspiration when you are not attached to like the past, the future. You're just right here, right now, and just this. And I think there's a reason why some of the greatest creatives and minds in the world like are practitioners of yoga or they meditate. There's it gives you, and especially asana and asana practice gives you this tangible thing to feel your progress, to feel your to work through tough situations, to meet your mind, to maybe talk yourself through. And like one part of your mind is like, no, you can't do this. Who are you? And the other one's like, don't worry, just breathe. You got this. Like the angel and devil on your shoulder. And I think that all the things, it's the foundation that the practice lays for you. Maybe, not all the crazy particulars that we can get into. We're humans. We make things complicated all the time when things can be really simple. But I think that it just lays the foundation for you to be in that creative space, that flow state where you're meeting something else halfway, you know?
Yeah, so I'm hearing that
Is it too
creativity
ethereal?
happens in the present moment.
Yes.
I'm hearing that it's a simplification and following of flow state or almost like a feeling of being guided.
hmm
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like I've experienced that as well, and I think that's why yoga can be one of the tools for sure for creativity.
hmm
So, you're creating something new and you're going to do the January challenge in real
Challenge.
life. Challenge.
We're doing the challenge. Yeah. So this year, so last year when my leg was broken, I had some friends that were modeling for me. And then I would have some other friends text me and be like, "Hey, can I just like come to your house and also do it like live from your house?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, sure." So it ended up being like me, the girl that was on the mat, and then like 6 to 8 people like around my house just like rolled out their mats. Everyone would show up in the morning. We'd have coffee together, which is like such a no-no before yoga, but also like whatever. My leg was
Me as I'm
broken. All the
sipping
rules were
coffee right now.
no, perfect. And I really enjoyed, I teach in-person classes, but not regularly. And I just really enjoyed having people there with me. And I really enjoyed that feeling of teaching two people. So I was like, I wonder if I can do this in a bigger way. So this year, the January challenge will still be a digital challenge, but for the first time, I'm inviting people to Tulum to practice a challenge with me live in person. So I'm basically doing a
Amazing.
residency here from January 13th to February 12th. And I'll be teaching every morning, 8 a.m., Monday to Friday. Um, and so basically, people can either fly here and just like come and do the drop-in classes as they want. I also decided to do something a little bit crazy where I'm basically running 5 weeks of mentorships back to back each week of the challenge. So there's going to be people flying out each week to work with me basically all day. They'll practice with me in the morning, and then in the afternoons, each class reflects like 1 week of the challenge. We get really in depth. We get, get hands-on posture tutorials, um, more, yeah, just more in-depth, hands-on. You can ask your questions. We have time to work on things. I'll be there with them. And I'm really looking forward to seeing. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is basically like a 5 week retreat
It
and
is. Yeah.
production. So, um, yeah,
Production
definitely
because of the
crazy
online, the
because of the
recording
online.
portion.
Exactly, exactly. So
And you
it's
do
gonna
that
be.
production in-house or you go to a studio to do that? I don't actually know where you record usually.
So usually, I record where I'm staying. So in the
Yeah.
past, like I've found places that I live in, and then also have like a beautiful space that I can shoot in and work in.
Nice. Nice.
Yes. But this year, because I'll be teaching in person, I need to be like in a studio space. So it'll be, a little bit more, it won't be as, vibey and homey as the previous years, but I'm looking forward to seeing. I don't know what's going to happen. This could be the best idea. This could be like the worst idea ever, but you also got to take some risks. That's one of
How do
my,
you
that's,
know how do you know
but,
what risks are worth taking?
it's really hard to say. It's just like, it's hard to say. I'm like not risk adverse though. I probably should. I'm one of those people where I'm like, I'm gonna throw myself off the ledge and then I'm gonna figure it out. And sometimes when it works, it works. And when it doesn't work, you're just, it doesn't work. But
How often do you have a backup plan?
no, there's always backup plans. There's always multiple backup plans.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Do you feel like
always.
the plan A is fully formulated or it's more of a what step feels best next?
The plan, it's kind of like, how do I describe it? It's kind of like when you are creating a yoga class. Like you have a structure that you follow, like we know what
Hmm.
the format's going to be. We know uh, like how, that you're going to do an opening and then you're going to do a warming series and you're going to get into. And I think that projects are the exact same. So I know what the structure is going to look like. Like this year, it's going to be Monday to Friday. Then I'm going to have these workshops in the afternoon. But also, you have to be. I don't like to make plans because if things don't go according to plan, I really start to freak out. So I try not to plan things like da, 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 because if I do, I'll get fixated on it being that way and I will drag myself through the mud if it's not perfect. So I like to leave some space to meet the moment where it is. Like this is what we have to do, this is what we're doing, but also we can, be flexible and find solutions if we have to.
Sure. Maybe I should try that. I'm an
I just
over
don't like
planner.
I can't do chaos anymore, because how many times like you always do it, like you always get it done. And maybe we
Yeah.
could just know that we're going to get it done without, stressing ourselves out, panicking the whole time. Or maybe it's the panic that helps us get it done. I don't know.
I've been trying to really establish that because there's a difference from creating from the panic and the stress and creating from the feeling drawn forward. Like there's a
Hmm.
very different, it's going to get done either way. I think about even I use that a lot in school, like the fear of tomorrow is the day of the exam or whatever, and then you use that as like motivation to study.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there's a big difference for sure in what we're doing. Like you mentioned, the chaos, stress energy versus the true creative energy, which I think, as you mentioned earlier, comes a lot more from a state of presence and those sacred pauses that we
But
sometimes get.
don't get it twisted. You need the chaos too. Like you need both, and that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like I think we always are like, "Oh, we're gonna find a way to optimize and just feel amazing all the time." And I'm like, I don't believe in that anymore. You know,
No.
like, and I think that trying to achieve for like that's like trying to achieve for perfection, which
Mm-hmm.
is, you know, so we need moments of chaos. We need moments of pause and complete nothingness. Like we need all these things to carry us through, and I think that's what
Mm.
it's all about, is just like meeting the moment where it's at, trying to adapt, trying to, you know, not freak out when things like when shit hits the fan, like not just be like, okay, been here before. What do we know from the last time? How can we, how do we move forward?
Yes. Yes. No, I believe so strongly that everything is a paradox. And so I love that point that you've just made, that absolutely the goal is not to arrive to just the peace forever.
You
Yeah,
just,
so we need a
and
little bit of that.
that's what makes it special when you have
The
those moments,
shadows.
when you have those moments, you appreciate them. Because
Totally.
like in the last few years, like the momentum that I've been working at, the momentum that I've been traveling at, you have these jaw dropping jaw dropping epic moments, and you don't even, like, you're in such momentum, you don't even really take it in, and it's
Hmm.
only until like later, like months later, where you look back and you're like, wow, that was actually super epic, and I don't think I really took that moment in, you know
Do you have a moment like that that stands out to you from your career?
Oh my God, so many, so
Can you
many.
share one with
I have
us?
a, no, I don't know. Let me think. No, there's so many. I think I've always had this underlying, um, almost anxiety for progress and to move forward and to arrive, to get there based on, certain things that have happened to me, or, situations that didn't work out, like always trying to just move beyond them. And when I look back, I'm like, oh, you didn't have to stress out so much, like you could have just like really enjoyed yourself. Like, what were you killing, Like that's now one of those things where I'm like, okay, why are we carrying this stress to achieve, to, um, which I think it's important to always have your bar high to want and to move towards things. Otherwise, I'm lost. If I don't have goals to work towards, like I feel a little lost. Um, but to just not have this anxiety, like just try to enjoy and be where I am without being hard on myself to
Hmm.
do more, or yeah.
When people see you doing what you're doing, and even for me, when I'm hearing about this cool moment where you're bringing your January challenge to an in real life experience, and for me from the outside, I'm like, wow, she's living out her dreams in this really cool new way. And I feel like a lot of times, many of us, we spend a certain amount of time stuck, sort of living vicariously through other people. Or, oh, that person is traveling the world and doing yoga, or that person is doing this thing that I really want to do, but I don't know if that's for people like me, or I don't know if I can. But how can we stop just living vicariously through other people and actually step into our own dreams? Use that fuel and that inspiration that we get and actually do something with it.
It's, I mean, I had people that I looked up to when I was young, like, and I still look up to, like there's always, however, like you just need to, like, you just gotta show up. Like you just have to like do, like when people look at like where I am now, I'm 35. I've been teaching since I was 20. Like I've gone through all of those uncomfortable periods of, like, having to put myself out there, nobody knowing who I am, nobody caring who I am, like nobody, like there, I also had to, I didn't just, arrive to where I am now, but there was always this feeling that this is what, I don't know, I just always felt like this is what I was meant to do, and something that I was passionate about, that I enjoyed teaching to people, and sharing. And yeah, like it took me a long time to arrive to where I am now. Like in the last, really the last 5 years, which is really like the shiniest years of my career, where I get to travel and I get to live in Tulum and I have this online presence. Like that's just the last 5 years. The 10 years before that, like were crazy. Like I was bartending, I was doing bottle service, I was teaching yoga Monday to Thursday and working at the bar or the club Thursday to Sunday because that was the teaching yoga was very hard to get jobs. Like the people weren't like it was like 25, $35 a class at that time, you know. Like I had to work so I could go and do more yoga teacher training so that I could go to yoga journal conferences, you know. So I went through those
Yeah.
periods of like living this like crazy duality of being in nightlife and then also like, trying to be healthy and do this use that it was a means to an end. Like I used that and that work ethic to get me to more trainings, to learn more, to be able to, learn from the people I wanted to learn from. So
Yeah,
yeah,
to
it's
do
just
whatever it
like
takes.
you just and I like one of the studios I work at in Toronto. The owner and I are now good friends. But when I heard that this brand was coming to the city, it's a brand called Pure Yoga. They're from Ottawa. And I walked into one of their studios and I was like, this is incredible. Like, I hadn't seen anything like it in Canada, with when how they had built, this business. Anyway, when it came to Toronto, I was like, I need to be a part of this team. I really want to be there. And so I went to the owner and I was like, can you put me on the sub list? Always. That's the best thing. If you are a new teacher and you want to start working at a studio, first of all, try to work at the studio that you like to practice at. You like the people that are showing up. You like the teachers that are there. Like you have to feel comfortable in the community. Um, and then say, hey, I want to be on a sub list. And she was like, yeah, for sure, we can put you on a sub list. I'm like, and I'd really love to like teach. And she was like, well, no, we don't have any classes, it's that whatever. And I kept showing up to her class. I kind of stalked her a little bit. I kept showing up to her classes. And after every class, I'm like, listen, like, again, if anything comes up, like, I'm super open, let me know. And finally, she was like, fine, I have a Monday, 6 a.m. power.
Ew.
Monday, 6 a.m.
Ask and you
power.
shall receive.
And I was like, at that time, I did not, because I didn't trust myself to wake up that early and get somewhere on time. So but I was like, no, I was hungry. I wanted to work at that studio. I wanted to be at that space. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And I started showing up, teaching that class. Nobody was at that class. I think there was like 3 to 5 people when I took the class on. And within like 2.5, 3 weeks, like I had 30 people at 6 a.m. on a Monday. And she was like, what do you want?
Hmm.
What do you want? And yeah, like I had to prove myself. I had to like earn my place. And that is also a process. Like it's very important. Like you have to be able to speak for yourself. You have to be able to ask for what you want. You also have to have the discipline to show up as a teacher when maybe no one's showing up to your classes, or like I think it's very easy to feel discouraged at the beginning, but you have to just keep showing up. Like the physical, our practice on the mat and how we show up in life is this two sides of the same coin, you know?
Yeah, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything, for sure. So I know that in the last episode when we were talking about your teaching, that you're not able to teach in the United States and that, lots of people are asking. I know we left like this cliffhanger in the
I
last
know.
episode, but I just want to ask if there's anything about that you want people to know, that you can share about why you're not able to teach in the United States right now.
Yeah. So I actually just was able to go back to the United States for the first time in 7 years, which has been, something that has always been in the background, something that was really an inspiration, a fuel rather to, help me build my platform was because, yeah, it was because of that situation. I helped to open a yoga studio in the States. And um, basically, because of that situation, I can't get into details, but I was not allowed to re enter the United States for 7 years. And I may or may not have been arrested off of a private jet. because of that. So, yeah, that's something that people are always asking me, are you coming? Can you teach in the States? And, I know a lot of people that travel and teach, and it's just, I will never lose the opportunity to come and visit my friends and people that I love in the United States. So if you want to come and practice with me, you're gonna have to come see me in Mexico or in Canada or online. But it's
Is there
been,
anything, go for it.
go ahead. No, no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if there's anything about that situation that, like a high level standpoint, learning lessons, things you would have done differently, or things that you think that are important lessons that you can share from having gone through something like that,
Mm.
like
I think
red
we even talked
flags and
about
stuff like
it.
that.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the last episode also, is the practice of discernment, especially in uh, the spiritual world, spiritual practice. This has become, in what world of wellness is, has become an industry, and anything where people can make money is going to be, you have to be discerning with your energy, who you're giving your attention to, the ideas that you are taking on. And that situation, really taught me to not ignore my intuition. You know, I had these gut feelings, and there were definitely red flags within the situation that hindsight's always 2020. And there was a part of me that knew I should have walked away and I should have just dropped it. But there was another part of me, which we now know is like the ego, which was attached to the project, attached to the community, attached to um, that being able to make a name for myself in a new city, in a new environment, to be able to go to a new place. Like, I've never really felt like, I'm from Canada, I'm from Toronto. It's never, I love my family, I love, but it's never really felt like my place. And to be so well received in a new place was such a nice feeling. Um, so yeah, there were things where my ambition clouded my judgment, and I should
Mm.
have left a lot earlier. Like, and this is something I work through, is like, stop betraying yourself. Like, why, when you feel
Ooh,
something and know, like, why are you trying to convince yourself out of a feeling? Like, there's an
yes.
instant, like, and you're like, no, 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 but maybe you're being crazy. Or And it's been happening a lot to me recently, where I have these gut instances and I betray myself on very, varying levels, small levels. And you just look back and you're like, I knew better, and I should have just trusted my gut. But your rational mind is like, no, 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 but this, but that, and you read, and it's like, yeah,
The stop betraying yourself is such a good little motto to have because, yeah, it's
someone gave me
sneaky.
that
It's like,
recently, and I'm like, oof. But in a way, I say that in a softer way to my students, where I say, you have to keep your promises to yourself. You know,
mm,
keep your
yes,
keep your promises to yourself. Um,
yes.
but yeah, the not betraying yourself, like, when like, you know,
Don't
don't
convince
second
yourself
guess,
out of
don't
the
try to convince
knowing.
yourself out of it. And that's what I was doing. There were so many red flags, and it was like, I think we talked about this last time. Like, I found yoga because I was having panic and anxiety attacks, but I was having panic and anxiety attacks because I wasn't listening to myself, and I was listening to all these external and making excuses, and oh but this, oh and oh but that. Like, I wasn't
Yeah.
making choices for the best version of me. I was making choices to please everybody else. So, um and yeah, but there were other things in that situation, where it's like, you're going to be young, especially when you're young. And you're hungry and you're ambitious. People are going to see your talent, see your passion, and they're going to exploit it, because you're not going to know your value. You're not going to know the energy, the value of your energy. And it's very important to not, there's so many situations that are built on clout these days, in every industry, but it's also crept into our industry, the wellness industry, where it's like, oh, I've been
Yeah.
seen with this person, or I've done a training with this person. It's like, that doesn't give you, status, and it doesn't, you just have to be very careful and don't be, you're allowed to question everything. Like you're allowed to say, hey, this doesn't feel right. You're allowed to take a step back. And the challenging thing for me at the time was that it was so crazy what I was thinking. I confided in one or two people and they were like, no, you're losing your mind. Like no rational people would ever, this is not how the world works.
Mm.
And then when it, things had happened and things had happened in the end, they looked and they said, we're so sorry we didn't believe you. Like we're so sorry
Yeah.
that, you know, so that was tough at the time because no one was on my side. No one really believed me. And also, when it comes to wellness and affluence, there's a lot of people that are just going to side with affluence. And that's
Yeah.
unfortunately a part of just the world. But my biggest piece of advice is just to be very discerning. And if things don't feel right, I say this in my classes all the time, if it feels weird, it's weird. Like that's an energetic cue for me. Like if it feels weird, it's weird. You don't
Mm.
have to try to rationalize it. You don't have to try to figure it out. You don't need to know why it's weird, but it feels weird, it's just weird. You're just
Yeah.
like, you know what? Drop the momentum. Like if I knew how to drop the momentum back then, I would have been able to have freedom, you know?
Mm.
If I was able to drop the
Mm.
momentum back then, I would not be in the position where I am now. But also I'm grateful because I wouldn't be where I am now if that situation hadn't taught me those very, very, very hard, tough lessons. It was
Yeah.
like being For me, it was like being in jail. It was horrible to be able to not be able to visit my friends, to not be able to go practice with my teachers, to miss, life events, weddings, baby showers, all these big things with people that I love. I if I had just been able to listen to myself, trust myself, know, because I was young, it's like no, 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 no. No, like I knew and I should have dropped the momentum.
Yeah. That's a chills worthy moment for me because like you said it's a very full circle moment because we started out talking right about like this idea of getting sucked into the momentum and all of this and you said that if you would have known how to drop the momentum in that moment too things would have been different and not that
Hmm.
you deserved any of the things that happened but like at the same time yeah trusting yourself if it feels weird it's weird. I love that you mentioned that you leave your students with this idea of keeping your promises to yourself.
Hmm.
This has been really key, actually, learning to become impeccable with my word or working towards becoming impeccable with my own word. It's given me a lot of peace. It's given me a lot of progress at the same time. But what do you feel like as leaders, as yoga teachers that we are? What can we leave our students with that is going to inspire them to keep going, to keep practicing, to keep exploring the yoga?
I think the most helpful thing is to tell, like, if you drop the ball, it's okay. Like, if you, if life gets crazy and it pulls you out for a second out of the work and the tangible practice of it, like, it's okay. But at a certain point, you have to get up. At a certain point, you have to begin again, you know? And there's going to be a
Yeah.
time where, at least for me in my process, like when I went down mentally, physically, I had to let myself fall to the bottom. And I had to be there for a minute. And then I got sick of it. And I'm like, get up. And it's not always a strong get up. Sometimes it's, it's a whisper. And you have to heed to that call and you have to just be willing to begin again. It is okay to fall. It is okay to fall off course. The most important part is that you pick it up and you begin again. No matter, you don't have to go fast. It doesn't have to be crazy. It just has to be consistent. It just has to be a little bit every day. Like your promise to yourself can literally be, I'm going to make sure I have my protein before I have my coffee every morning, and start with the smallest, tiniest action. It doesn't even have to be, I need to show up for an hour yoga practice every single day. Like setting yourself up with these insane expectations is what's going to disinspire you. Just
And disappoint you when you fall short
yeah, and
continuously.
just give you another excuse to tell yourself that you're not good enough.
Mm,
You like future trip and you pre self-sabotage. It's a fine line because you want to keep your bar high. I'm not saying like don't like, oh, like you need to have, but also be real with yourself. Remember that there's a cycle and a season and a rhythm that you go with, and once
yeah.
you're in the practice, it's with you. Like, like the way that you deal with life is going to be the way you deal on your mat, you know?
Yep.
And if you're having problems dealing in life, you got to get back to your mat and be like, what's going on?
This is
But to
really
keep your
important.
promises, it's like, it's the smallest action. And when you keep your promise to yourself, you're not going to be hard on yourself. You're not going to put yourself through the mental, oh, you're not doing this and it's not good enough and da 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 da, and you need to do more and blah blah blah. If you're just showing up and you do the process, no matter what, whether it's the best practice you've ever had or it's the shittiest thing you had to drag yourself through, as long as you do it, you're gonna be like, I got myself, and that energy, that confidence, it's what's gonna carry you through to the next thing.
Yes.
So that was very convoluted, but
No, but the
when
high
you
level,
stop,
yeah.
begin again.
Yeah, when you stop, begin again. And I like this secondary point that you've put too, which is that yes, when we just set these massive, lofty goals for ourselves, and then we repeatedly don't do them because it's not really possible for us to do them on the first day that we start, then we fall short over and over and over again. And then we use it as an excuse to say, hey, this is why I'm not cut out for it. Might as well, I didn't do it today, I didn't do it the next day. I guess I can't do it at all. Whereas if you set that little tiny thing and you just give yourself over and over and over little pieces of trust in your word, that when you say you're going to do something, that you actually do it.
And
Yeah,
like
and I
stop
can see
over
that in you.
intellectualizing. Stop over intellect. Stop asking yourself so many questions. Like
Yeah.
just do it. The littlest
Yep.
thing, even if it's 10 jumping jacks and you're like, okay, cool. You're gonna want to do more after you do 10. But you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So, a couple of rapid fire questions before we wrap up the interview. These can be
oh.
in short response. We can call it short response rather than
I'll
rapid
try.
fire.
I'll
But
try my
in
best for short response.
in a few words, what's your biggest joy?
Oh my gosh. My biggest joy. Rapid fire. My biggest joy, honestly, right now is just like I said, I've really been working on enjoying exactly where I am, which right now it's raining in the jungle. I don't think you can hear it, but I live in the trees and in nature, and so my biggest joy right now is just enjoying where I'm at fully.
What's your biggest challenge?
Enjoying where I'm at fully.
Fair. What gives you hope?
Yeah. It gives me hope. Oh, uh, honestly, it's been, especially these days, it feels increasingly harder to find hope. But I think there's these moments of humanity interactions I've had recently where I'm just like, okay, we're healing. Things are gonna be okay. And it
Yeah.
always comes from just a kind gesture, usually from a stranger or someone just, who doesn't have to be nice, but they go out of their way, which is, you know,
Yeah. What is your hope for the future of yoga?
my hope for the futures of yoga. I hope that we can stop finding so much division and everyone trying to prove that their version is right. I hope that we can uh, create world peace.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
you know, like I just, yeah, I hope the division and also I hope for some of the masks to fall off. But I think also in time, as you move through the process, you start to see things as both they are and as you are. So
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Dee. I love this conversation. I feel lit up, I feel inspired, I feel empowered, and I'm super grateful for your time. And I'd love if you would tell listeners where they can find you. I know that you mentioned your January challenge. We'll definitely link that in the show notes. But if there's anything else that you've got going on that you want folks to know about.
So you can find me always on my platform, dedica.live, which is my website. I'm now back to teaching 3 times a week live. You should come. You should come tomorrow. Can you make 11 a.m.?
I
Sorry.
will
Whoops.
see. Let me see.
Okay. I'm sorry. Um, anyway, so I'm back to teaching 3 days a week live before leading up to the challenge where I'll be teaching 5 days a week online. I'm also doing a 200-hour teacher training in May here in Tulum, which I'm really
Yes.
looking forward to. So I would love to see you all there. And if you need to find me, you can always find me on Instagram at Dedica. And I think that's it. I think that's it
Awesome.
for now.
Well, if you're listening too, thanks for making it all the way to the end of the episode. And we'll catch you in the next one.
See you later, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yay!